Hello, and welcome back to another edition of the DP World Tour Picks and Bets. Skylar, Hoke here. It's been a week off in between, but we need to remember, Tom, the last time there was a DP World Tour event, we had 3 guys in the top 5, yet we didn't even sniff a winner. You know, I felt like the best week we've had all season in reality, but fortunately Jordan Smith ran away. But Tom, it's good to be back as we start the last 2 events, kind of the playoffs here in the Race to Dubai Challenge.
Yeah, I think you can count yourself pretty unlucky that week, having those guys in the top 3 and 5. But like it, to me, Jordan Smith just did everything that we said he could do, right? So a little bit like when Sean Crocker beat Pepperell, a little bit like when Russell Henley won last week. Like the leader just went out and carried on what they were doing. And I think Gavin Green, didn't he made birdie on or eagle or something on 9. He picked up 9 shots over 10 holes and made no ground on Jordan Smith. I think it was in the final round. Like he was just electric.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've been so close on so many over. I mean, Gavin, that performance is a winning performance, right? Like that is literally what you ask for on any golfer that you'd pray for. But sometimes you do run into a buzzsaw, right? And it's what happens in the game of golf, and you move on to a week, to an event that we haven't seen, I would say, this style back at the Nedbank Golf Challenge, when we have it as the first leg kind of in the DP World Tour Championship, or the Race to Dubai kind of playoffs, in a couple of years. We have 66 golfers that are going to be teeing it up here that are ranked, inside there on the Race to Dubai rankings. So no cut event, 72 holes, back at Gary Player Country Club. Last time we saw these guys here, what the winner would have been, this was in full field event. So Bezuidenhout won in 2020, and it's crossed over a bunch on the Sunshine Tour. I believe Danny Van Tonder beat out Oliver Becker the last time we saw this course. I know you were on Becker that week, if I remember correctly. But so I enjoy this event, this course, a South African event with a lot of talent, or a decent amount of talent. It's not the same as it could have been in years past, but I'm excited for this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's a completely different event. So you talk about the 2020 SA Open. So they had 2 that year, didn't they? They had one in January, one in December. The second one was at Gary Player, where Bezuidenhout won by 5 strokes over Jamie Donaldson. And Van Tonder, like you said, beat Oliver Becker by 1 shot, who I don't know how he got over that water that day. Still reeling a little bit from that. But when you go back, you've got to go back 3 years since we've had the actual Nedbank Golf Challenge. Tommy Fleetwood won in a playoff against Marcus Kinhult. And you look at the kind of winners list of this event: Fleetwood, Westwood's won it 3 times, Brandon Grace, Noren, Leishman, Danny Willett, Thomas Bjorn, Martin Keimer, Robert Allenby, Henrik Stenson, Trevor Immelman, Jim Furyk, and it goes on. Sergio Garcia's won it twice. It's basically a premier event on the DP World Tour, and it was actually called the $1 million challenge or something back in the day when the $1 million was a lot. These days it doesn't really matter, but I think they actually increased the purse quite a decent amount in Tommy Fleetwood's year as well. I think he kind of won $2.5 million or something that year, and he got asked, what does it mean to you? He's like, money means nothing, and that's how everyone loves Tommy Fleetwood, right? But in terms of the golf course itself, Sky, I mean, I look at it and it's basically a really tough driving golf course where scoring can be pretty difficult to come by. I mean, Fleetwood won at 12 under, Grace at 11 under, Keimer at 8 under. There has been some better scores obviously in between, with Noren at 14, Leishman at 19, Willett at 18, but they then won. So Leishman won 19 under, but won by 6 strokes. Willett won at 18 under, won by 4 strokes. So they kind of stepped away from the field, a little bit like, I guess, Ategi at Valderrama. Like the score they shot isn't really relative to the golf course, right? So really tough golf course. And there was 2 courses. I haven't done this in a little while. I've kind of stepped away from this a little bit in my process, Sky. But the 2 courses that I really like to correlate for this are Doha Country Club for the Qatar Masters and Cran-sur-Sierre. So there's a little bit of, there is elevation at this golf course, which you do get at Cran-sur-Sierre. And there's just been a huge amount of crossover in both events. So the person that and I'm rambling here a little bit, so we'll interject in a sec. The person that kind of alerted me to this, so Young Hun Wang, do you remember him?
Yes.
So
Well, it was probably past our time of betting, but yes.
Yeah.
Or
So
before time of betting. Yeah.
He finished second to Alex Noren here in 2016, but he's also won at Doha. And he's won 3 times on the DP World Tour, like Trophy Sam, Mauritius Open, and Qatar. But kind of didn't really do it. He was never consistent. And then I look at another place that he's done well at, and that was Crans-sur-Sierre. So he's won Qatar, second here, 12th at Crans. And then when you start to dig into the people that have done well at sort of all 3, Sergio Garcia has won at all 3. Thomas Bjorn's won at all 3. Ernie Els has won at all 3. Robert Carlson's won in Qatar, won in Crans, second here. Immelman won here, second at Crans. Willett's won both. Noren's won both. So there's a lot of crossover between Crans and here. Doha, even more so. Stenson is a winner and a 3-time runner-up here, a winner and 2-time runner-up at Doha. Brandon Grace won back-to-back at Doha, won here. Adam Scott won twice in Doha, won here. Or runner-up here. So the trouble is with that, as people will probably have guessed as I'm reading off those names, they're all the best kind of players on the DP World Tour, right? So it could be absolutely nothing, but it just gave me, just basically Young Hun Wang being the guy that won Doha, second here, and 12th at Crans, kind of led me to believe that there is something to that. So if anyone kind of wanted a couple of courses to maybe look at, those were the 2 I found.
Yeah, I would add one more. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but Ben Coley, our friend, was big on Le Golf National as kind of a one that, and it makes sense with a driving test that can present itself. Long straight driving is very beneficial there. Long straight driving is very beneficial here, right? You know, it's a long course. It's 7,800 yards plus. Is at elevation. You mentioned that with Crans.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of those do make a lot of sense. And your opening point. This is a big event. They refer to its Twitter handle as Africa's Major. You know, this is a really big event for them. I'm disappointed, you know, some of the big guys didn't show up. You know, you get to see some of the PGA guys maybe next week, or they cross over because they have those high rankings from major championships. And if you can get one of these guys to play into the lead in the event, so it would be really cool. You know, Tommy's here, but basically outside of that, I guess, you know, we can go right into the odds board, right? Tommy's number 1, Smith's number 2. Right there. I mean, they're quite short, 12s or 9.5 for Fleetwood, 14s for Smith. 2 other PGA guys are here though, in Dietrich, 14-1, and Bezaden at 18-1, a winner here, of course. And I say PGA guys, Dietrich now being a full-time PGA Tour card holder and off to a hot start. He's a short number, Tom. It's something where we've talked about, can he get over the line? He's played as good as anybody. What do you think there about Dietrich? Is he somebody you think that could break through this week?
I'm betting him this week because I just figure that we've seen Jordan Smith do it. We've seen Callum Shinkwin do it at prices that we don't want to bet them at. And I kind of been writing about talking about Thomas Dietrich last couple of weeks, saying that it just feels inevitable that he's going to win. And what you've got to figure out is he going to do it on the PGA Tour or the DP World Tour? It's probably going to happen on the DP World Tour. It's going to happen at this number. And that just makes me think that I should just take it. And not only that, Sky, Thomas Dietrich has played here twice, and he's finished 7th and 3rd on those 2 occasions. And both times he had a chance to win. So 2018, he was in 3rd place and 3 shots back going into Sunday, despite opening with a 75. But he couldn't put pressure on Sergio Garcia going into the final day, finished 3rd. And then the second time, he shot 3 opening under par rounds and went into the final day, 1 shot back of Xander Lombard, shot a final round 74 and fell 4 short of Tommy Fleetwood and Marcus Kinhult in the playoff. But I think when you consider just how well he's been playing, how many years it's been since those 2 starts, just for the fact that he's 5 for 5 for made cuts on the PGA Tour this season, 2nd, 9th, 12th, and 15th place finishes. Thomas Dietrich, to me, just I can't sit here and say he looks value because he's 14-1, right? But I think that inevitably he's proven that he's a better player than this level in general. I know that someone you're going to come on to in a minute sort of fits that narrative as well. Like, I think it is a short price. I'm not going to shy away from that, but I think it's suitable, and I think he's definitely in the form to win a golf course that he's basically contended at both times.
Yeah, it's hard to make an equivalency, you know, from what he's played on the PGA Tour because he hasn't won, right?
Yeah.
Backdoored kind of a top 5 at one of those events recently, and
Bermuda.
But do you think that quality of golf is a winning quality of an event like this caliber, right? And that's kind of what the equivalent is. Now, does contention rust, or does the moment get too big? Who knows, right? Like, you hope not. I really do want Dietrich to break through. He's fun to root for. What Jeff calls him the European phenom, and loves to bet on him, right? Like, it's right there for him. So it is a short number. That's kind of, you pick your spot and you hope to come through with it. Beyond there, I was definitely interested in Bezuidenhout there. 18s, it's decent, I think, especially for someone who has a lot of course success, really good at the President's Cup, or I guess decent at the President's Cup, came out really good at the Shriners to follow. It's surprising because, to me, it's all short game with him to do so well at a course which you need that type of long game. Is a little bit, when it gets to this level, those events that he was really good at, right? Wasn't he was the overwhelming favorite, if I remember correctly, when he went back to back during that kind of run of golf. So that to me is enough. I end up starting my card a little bit deeper, right? You have McIntyre, you have Fox, you have Minwoo, you have Rasmus, all kind of in that range to follow. I mean, if I'm really selecting who I think is the best PGA guy, or somebody who has, I don't know, like the sky high ceiling, in my opinion, is Lucas Herbert. Like, we've talked about him at great lengths over the last couple of years on this show, right? And I've said that very similar with Kitayama as well. And I view their ceilings even more so, I think, Herbert, but I don't know, maybe Kitayama's capitalized it on a little bit more. But like, I don't know, man. They have incredibly variant finishes. They could miss the cut, they could top 5. It's really good long game, and mainly distance for Herbert there. But for Herbert, I mean, the best short game in the world. He might be literally the best putter in the world. Number 1 strokes gained putting last year on the PGA Tour. And my thing is, I'm getting 25 to 1 on him, right? Winner on the PGA Tour, 2-time winner on the DP World Tour. I want to be backing him when that number is decent more often than not. I'm willing to stick on a guy like him. I was disappointed in myself of giving up on Kitayama when he played well in the CJ Cup, and I just don't want to have that same feeling, because any week, anytime, I think Herbert can contend, and that short game can lift him. And that if that driving clicks, or if the irons click while the short game is there, I mean, he can win a major, in my opinion. Like, you could see him like in the Open Championship, like he had as many birdies as anybody, right? He wasn't going to get to Cam, or he wasn't going to get to Rory, but like, that leaderboard sniffed a little bit for him. So I don't know. I think that's the upside I look at him at, and 25 to 1 versus some of the other guys in between. I'm perfectly fine going in with that number for him.
So he's probably the one that makes the case against the price for Dietrich for me. Like, I sat there and said, I don't really know what price you could make Dietrich. And the argument is, well, Lucas Herbert's playing, really good stuff on the PGA Tour. He's not been as consistent. So Dietrich is factored into kind of place money and top 5 money and stuff like that. But like, to all your points you just said, plus the fact he's got the 8th place finish at Crans-sur-Sierre, which I liked. Bay Hill, great driving golf course, 7th place finish there. Irish Open and Dubai Desert Classic wins, Bermuda Championship wins. Like, do they all correlate? No, but like, it to me, like, just the asset is his driving, right? And it has been for a little while now, which hasn't always been. He's been fairly short game driven for large parts of his career, but the fact that driving distance and that even that driving equity at times is improved makes him a danger.
Yep, totally agree. We've seen a push down in odds on Brandon Grace, somebody who arguably has the most success here of anybody. You have Grace, and then you get into the 30s, and this is kind of the range where, in an event like this, it's hard not to jam 4 or 5 guys on your card, 6 guys, and we each have 5 selections this week. I think you have 4, I have 5 overall, and I mean, they're all jammed basically now in this 30 to like 80 range, right? And then you have to specifically seek out a long shot, 100 to 1 plus. And for me, I'm cool living in these 30s, 40s, 50s because I think there's really good golfers that have played strong all season long. And one that, man, I would go to the bank as probably the best ball striking season of anybody on the DP World Tour right now. And I firmly believe that has not lost strokes on approach since the Dutch Open in May. So literally, you're looking at a run of 10 consecutive events or 9 consecutive events. I don't know if you can trust the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship, where he finished 4th at with, I guarantee those irons were firing for Antoine Rosner, just like they have all year long, right? If I look at somebody who can drive with distance plus accuracy, so one of the better drivers on this tour, lights out with the irons. The question is, do you go to the route and look at some of these previous winners and think about it lately? Like, the Zadenhout does not fit the mold that Rosner does. But like, if you rule out the 2 years where it wasn't happening, I mean, Tommy's not somebody you think about having a heck of a flat stick. Westy's done well here. Sergio has done well here. Martin Keimer has won, right? Like, guys that you are not feeling good over an 8-foot putt, right? Like, that's the struggle there. So what's for me to worry? Of course, it's going to probably keep me up at night, Wednesday night, betting Antoine Rosner. But I think overall, when that putting spikes, and it has a couple of times, and the funny thing is, it hasn't capitalized ever to the point in which he should have won, or the irons were on par the same time. But man, 31-1 is the longest now you can find Rosner over here. I just love it. I think it fits the mold of exactly, and it's not even looking into anything outside of a really good driver, really good ball striker, and that is who has won here historically.
He is probably the one that I'm most afraid of that I haven't bet, and the reason for that, we kind of spoke about just how good his game's been just for so long, right? Like, it's just lasted for such a long time, and he's won in Qatar, not the golf course that I mentioned earlier, but he's won in Qatar, which I like. He's got 4th and 13th place finishes at Grand-Sur-Sierre as well, which obviously I've mentioned that I do like there. And I just think it seems weird for someone that's already got 2 wins already, but I think he's due. Like, I think he's due a victory, and that would mean he's won 2020, 2021, 2022. So for Antoine Rosner, and that would actually carry on from the Challenge Tour. So 2019, he wins twice, wins in 2020, wins in 2021, wins again in 2022, potentially for Rosner. It's a great golf course for him, like, on paper. I actually don't necessarily trust the Bezuidenhout stuff. Like, I don't know if they set the course up differently because it was a different event, or it was just that he's just so much better than everybody else in that field. But like, he prototypically doesn't fit what is here. And like you said, you read about the people's names: Danny Willett, Alex Noren, great ball strikers, very average putters on their day. So that, Alex Noren would keep me awake at night. So Anton Rosner, I think, is a great bet.
Yep, and at some point that I feel like that's just going to hit, right? Rosner's going to get there. Is the number going to be too short? I don't know. It's teetering that way. If he was 25, if he was next to Herbert, I'm clicking Herbert every time. But a little bit more value there for Ros.
We've just seen with Jordan Smith and Russell Henley what happens when a great ball striker putts. Yeah, like, they lap the field.
Yep, that's a great point. I love that. I go again, I believe, before into you. Yep. So again, I'm kind of living here. And this is one where I think it's a little odd pricing too. I don't know if I would classify Rosner as odd pricing, but somebody who, if you read off guys that are in between here, and I think Pepperell is very fine. He similar to Rosner, right? Like, it could be there's a distance going to provide an issue. I definitely prefer the others. I liked Marat because he's a big hitter. He has that ability. He is above average accuracy. Tristan Lawrence is pretty popular among people that, I respect him with the selections. Could see it coming off of a win on the Sunshine Tour. Perez, Otegi, all are in there. But the one that sticks out to me, Tom, that I'm super excited to go back to the well, and I say go back to the well because we bet him every single week this season outside of the week that he won. Yeah. But I think Yannick Paul could do it again. I really do. He is basically Rosner light in a way, right? Like, hasn't been that same type of consistency, but in my eyes, he is one of the few golfers in this field who is well above accuracy, or well above on either a distance or accuracy, and positive to the field on both. He is a very accurate driver of the golf ball, and he's always beating the distance of the field. And that stretch of golf he had, 8th, miscut, 8th, 21st championship. And then he came out in the Portugal Masters kind of hot through like the opening 9, opening 18, and what do you expect? A week after your first ever win, your life has changed.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about anything that happened at the Portugal Masters. I just need to know he blitzed a field, and I guess didn't blitz a field. He could have.
Had the potential to, yeah.
Yeah, he won that event with like putting with his eyes closed, basically, right? Like outside of 18, when I don't even know if that counted towards the strokes gain putting because it was from the fringe. It probably wasn't around the green, but like his short game wasn't there, and Rosner mold, Yannick Paul mold, 45-1. I'm taking that to the bank with Yannick.
So I think with me with Yannick is just now is like I feel like I've missed out, and I don't know. And this is just a feel thing. I have nothing other than the fact I just don't know if he wins again before the year's out. Like I just there's only 2 events left, so it's gonna be hard for 2 events of the season left. As we just discussed, we've got a busy November and December ahead of us for the year.
Me too.
I don't know. I think it's one of those where like he makes perfect sense, so why go against him? And I actually probably preferred Adrian Moronk of those people that you mentioned. I think he's got some great upside again. My card has basically been filled with people that I think deserve a win and haven't got one yet. So I've gone the other way, whereas I think Paul's kind of done his winning.
Yeah. Oh, totally fair. And it's either does the stress pop off, and do you just close out the season? You're good, right? Or you playing with house money, and you might be more relaxed than you've ever been, and just can rip off a couple. We've seen it go very, very different ways for different people, and I'm excited for Yannick to have a breathe. And there was some time off, right? We had a week off. Some of these guys didn't play the event prior. Like there's been a good amount of time in between reset.
I think that's a really hard thing to, especially with someone like Yannick Paul. Like you don't know, he's gone straight into the Portugal Masters, but I probably would have thought he shouldn't have played that week. Probably should have just enjoyed it. He probably went in with the idea, like you said, of I'm freed up now. Let's just see what I can do while I'm in this form, and it didn't work out. And now you don't know whether he's gone away for a week, worked harder, or whether he's gone right. I'm actually going to take the break that I probably should have had and just come back because I know my game's in good shape and I can win again. So, I find this part of the year, and it's the late season of the DP World Tour and early season of the PGA Tour season, where it's really, really hard to get a grip on people's mental state. Are they looking one season ahead? Are they looking back at what they've not achieved, what they have achieved? What are they doing? So for Yannick Paul, it's in the balance, but we'll find out a lot about him this week, I think.
For sure. If I'm thinking of a golfer that I've bet on a lot, you've bet on a lot, and I'm willing and nervous to step off here, but man, it doesn't feel good, especially when I dig into the numbers, man, about your selection here.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very surprised when I saw your list. Everyone else that you put on your list, I kind of predicted beforehand. I didn't know you were going to pick them all, but they all make sense. If I was making up a virtual shortlist for you, but this guy I thought was a dead certainty to be on your card. I thought he'd be where Yannick was for you. Gavin Green has finished 5th in Doha. He's twice been 12th at Crans. He's made his last 10 straight cuts. He's had 3 runner-up finishes in that time and an 11th. He's played here twice in the past, not well, 57th and 21st, but he's played here in the past in the strength of fields like this, actually stronger fields than this. His driver in isolation could be better, so off the tee it could be slightly better, but 3rd, 7th and 3rd in tee to green recently, 6th, 8th and 1st in approach. Quality form, quality course, correlative form for Gavin Green. Definitely overdue, definitely fits that same... probably not as overdue as Thomas Dietrich, right? Like I think Dietrich's been closer, and Gavin Green's had the potential for longer and hasn't quite got there, whereas Dietrich's been there and just not got it. But 45-1 or 50-1, I think, on DraftKings Sportsbook for Gavin Green is huge.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I really like it. Like I mean, the tough part is like it could have been the win. Like last time out could have been the win, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That was probably the best. I mean, if you look at like a raw rating in which they give Gavin Green on like Data Golf for that event, let me see. That event was the best event of his career. Gained they gave him over 3 strokes gained, like on a weighted average over the field, 3.22. He has never cracked 3 ever in his career.
And And it depends how you look at that for Gavin Green, right? Like, do you look at it and go, he's just put in the best performance he could probably ever achieve. Like, even if he goes on to win this week, it probably won't be as convincing as how good it was last week, right? Or last 2 weeks ago. So does Gavin Green go in with it of, I've played the best golf of my career, I didn't get the job done, so now I'm just going to go and get it done while I'm still in the form? Or does he go, my absolute best wasn't good enough, and he's just sitting in a dark room somewhere, waiting for the season to go over? I don't know which way it's going to go, but if you think about Gavin Green historically, like driving and putting, getting streak of his putter has always been his thing, right? So harder, 212s at Crans. The fact, 10 straight cuts is massive for Gavin Green. He's probably never done that in his career. I can't imagine he's ever done that in his career. I'm not going to look because I think it's a waste of time, but that to me is huge for him. So 50 to 1, sorry. Just on those numbers, I think Gavin Green, and I know it would be tough for you. So yeah, it's tough in that sense, but like, hey, I think it's a good bet.
Hey, you make a compelling argument. He's out to 55s at DraftKings too. So
someone's currently listening to us through some sort of like, like those horrible things where they say your echoes have been like bugged. Someone's listening to us at DraftKings going, Tom likes Gavin Green, let's boost him.
Let's give that old, like the other boost they do often, and it's like the bet of the week, right?
Yeah.
But yep. So Gavin Green, I think there's a compelling argument to be made there, and one I mean, we just want him to get over the line, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You go again. Go in. We mentioned him early off the top.
Yeah.
Right. I think this is a good one.
You mentioned Oliver Becker, and I've kind of discounted what Bezuidenhout, winning those events means. So I can't then come straight back and say that Oliver Becker finishing second here is the reason I should bet him. But it's not really. Like, that wasn't what kind of drew it to him. Like, if you look at just the people with strokes going off the tee this season, like Oliver Becker's right up there. Like, that was the main thing that kind of caught my eye. So the fact that he's just played so well, the fact that he plays great at home, there's just a lot to like about Oliver Becker. Like, I think he's a little bit underrated. Like, he was 15th in strokes gained off the tee this season, and that was in 82 measured rounds. No one above him had played more than 82. Ross Fisher had played 81. So yes, there's a decent drop off between him and like a Jordan Smith, but still really, really encouraging. And like you say, he's got that second place finish here last year on a different event, 8th and 20th in other South African events as well. Then you just consider like the season that he's had. Like, he went so close all year, really, periodically, and then 9th place finish for Oliver Becker at the Italian Open. Even when he was like 56th at the Dunhill Championship, he was actually 11th at the 54-hole stage. He shot 66 in round 2 at Valderrama in a disappointing week. 3rd last week in South Africa, or 2 weeks ago as well. I think Becker's got a great chance to perform on a course he knows well.
Yeah. It's funny because like I think of him, it's tough. Some of these he's not a live golfer. He played one live golf event, right? But like, it kind of throws my head off a little bit on those guys, even like Henny Duplessis, jumping over for an event or two and playing. And then coming back has always still distorted my brain a little bit, but he has played a ton of DP World Tour golf. You're exactly right. A really good season and familiarity on the course. I actually had interest in a full-time live golfer let's see where his odds were, right in the same range. I'm not going with him, but Horsfield. I don't know if the distance is there. Actually, not Horsfield. I thought Richard Bland has shown a lot of life in the last 2 events they've played. 3rd in Bangkok, finished strong in Jeddah. Was top 25 at Wentworth. Like, he's had an okay run. I just don't think the distance.
Is he out of live now? Like, I got a feeling like he's not going to be on the team or something. Is it like him or Cantor or something of like going to drop out? I don't even pretend to know.
Close enough. Yeah, I have no idea.
I know they've started opening up the transfer portal, and that's always fun. I saw PTU line got the switch to the 4 aces or whatever as they try and excite things up, but whatever. It's tough, isn't it? It's really hard. I mean, we've seen with Ategi recently what good form on live can, or not even great form on live, like great form when he's come back from live can do. So Bland's got experience here. He's played here in the past. I actually thought you'd go with Horsfield if you were going to go for
I think if you went on skill type too, right? I mean, Cantor could have played this well if he could get his driving back to what it was. But instead of talking about those guys, let's talk about the guy. Let's talk about when I mentioned Le Golf National off the top for one specific reason, Todd. one reason, and what I mean, you say Kranz, he's played well at Kranz.
Yeah.
You mentioned Qatar. I don't think the Qatar Masters record as good, but you said Rosner's corollary Qatar win isn't a bad thing. Well, that 70-foot putt on the 18th hole broke my heart when Guido Migliozzi came in second there. Guido Migliozzi, 21st in his debut here, was inside the top 10. I believe he was third after the first round on debut. He was like a young buck coming up still. He had his victories, but he was like 125-1 at this event last time it was here and played well. I thought he showed out well. And this is the best, in my opinion, Guido has been in a good amount of time, right? Similar to the way I'm viewing Yannick Paul. He shows up at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship, was like in a good spot after round one, fell off after that. Who knows what happens at Valderrama? If you play bad, it is what it is, right? If you play great, love to see it. But that stretch leading into his win was the best golf we have seen out of Guido Migliozzi in some time. And that's what I'm going to bet on. Freed up, card locked up, good to go, coming to a place he's felt comfortable at. And the issue is he's not the best driver, right? Like you worry about the accuracy. Distance is the short game aspect, like his you look at one of the better putters in this event, and it's him. It's there, so he can contend with some from a short game. But what he did at Le Golf National is what he would need to repeat here, and we've seen him do that in recent chances. And I like it with Guido. And at 70-1, I'll take it's good odds in an okay field. You know what I mean? He was down way lower than this recently, and I think they've drifted him out to a good spot that I feel comfortable going back at.
Yeah, look, when I read Ben's article and saw the France link, I knew you were going to go with Guido Migliozzi.
He almost did, man. He was so close.
He would have done, yeah.
He could but tip Guido in that article.
When I saw the 7th Kranz, I thought I was going to bet Guido Migliozzi. Then I think Brad was talking about Kenya, and obviously we know he's played well there in the past, winning and finishing 12th. Then I think that Qatar Masters, it's a different golf course, Education City rather than Doha, but I think similar sort of traits to both golf courses. Then you look at the fact with Migliozzi that he's played here, finishing 21st and opening with a 67. Like, your first ever round on one of the toughest golf courses, 67, is huge. And okay, he shot fine around 76 to really fall away, but he was inside the top 10 for the first two rounds, which, like you say, as a young player back then, I mean, that was his probably first full season on the tour. So to me, I think Guido makes a lot of sense. Most of the time, I just know you're going to bet him because he's in the field and he's still alive. But this time, I think there's merit to it.
Yeah. I love to have a good excuse when I bet him. Each have one more selection, dipping into the triple digits for us. I think they price things up well. It's not. You can make an argument. I know the argument you're going to make for your guy. I'm going to make a similar one and kind of thinking through, my bet here. But I think they priced up these long shots decently well, where it's not the most appetizing to dip here, but let's go with your standout down here.
Yeah, so for me, Calais Samoya, I mentioned those two courses off the top. So obviously we know he's won. The Porsche European Open, wasn't it, that he won? But the two courses that I flagged to you were Doha and Kranz-Cercier. He's got a third and a fifth at Doha in the Qatar Masters. He finished second in Kranz. So I couldn't have asked for better correlative form for him. For Samoya, and then you go into the fact that he played here once and he finished in 10th place, and just recently as well he shot a second round 64 at the Portugal Masters. So although Samoya, like, you wonder what Calais Samoya is going to become when he wins that first event, and you think, okay, is it? We say this an awful lot, like players going to kick on us that first win, that's going to change them. The trouble is with Samoya is it's changed him for the worse. Like, he's been horrendous. He's been missing cuts. He feels like the epitome of someone that's gone, right, it's taken me so long to win. And it's not even been that long, right? But like, it's taken me a while to win. I've had a couple of chances and I'm probably going to relax off. And that feels like what Samoya's done. But that second round 64 in Portugal, there was a couple of bits of life in Italian Open. And to be honest, it's actually been a really poor season for him. But the two places he's done well, the Qatar Masters and his win at European Open. I think European Open demands a decent driving week as well. So to me, it's a correlative course play for Samoya. There's not a ton of confidence because he's just been missing cuts like they're going out of fashion. But the 10th place finish I just thought was amazing. Like, he never shot worse than 72 that week, closed with a 69. So he backdoored the top 10. He was basically top 25 for the week. But, I don't mind that. It comes with positive memories. It's, the two courses I like, he's played well at consistently. It's just a long shot, and I don't think there's too many that make a ton of sense. And he's one of those who play well at Kenya as well, if that comes to fruition as well. So I like Calais Samoa.
Yeah, it's weird because I think like he did stand out to me down there because I thought about his victory and thought about his upside of what he has done. But there are like just the basically this bunch is the random winners of the season, right?
Yeah,
How Tong's in there. Kiefer got his win. Your boy Ollie Wilson gets his win. You mentioned Samoa there. Crocker's fallen off the map since he got his win, right? Like I would have loved Crocker here had we seen any life. But what I'm going to go to is a golfer that is sneaky shown form and form, meaning like I felt his season was a little bit of a disaster at one point following a made cut at the U.S. Open. We just didn't see much out of Will Besseling for a while, right? And maybe I'm being too generous in saying, we've seen life. I mean, his last three events are made cuts: T51, T45, T47. Best off the tee performance out of him in quite some time last week at the Portugal Masters. You mentioned the week that required a really big demanding test with Calais Samoa. Runner-up that week was Will Besseling. And I think Besseling, when I think South Africa events, I think back to the specific one where they let the guys wear shorts for the first time. And I believe that was when Grace might have won the Alfred Dunhill Championship in 2019. And I remember vividly, I wish the location form was acting up a little bit for me on tour tips this week. Yeah. But I know Will Besseling has done well. He had third that week at the Alfred Dunhill Championship. The year before, I believe, he also in South Africa had another strong finish there. Yeah, the Alfred Dunhill Championship was played twice in 2020. That's what it was. A 13th there and a third to open up this season. And so he's got good vibes in South Africa. And what, again, the hidden thing about Will Besseling is he is arguably, when like you pull statistics and you really just focus on driving, like he's like a top 10 driver on the DP World Tour, right? Like in theory, like he's like decently accurate, but he is very long with it too. And it kind of just goes unknown. And it's been a stretch run since basically him and Samoa fell off the map after that 1-2 finish. And we're hoping to find what brought them that success that week based off some corollary stuff, based off of the peak of their game. And they're both triple digits this week. So I think Besseling is worth a little punt there.
I mean, look, I didn't know you like Will Besseling, I guess because of the driving aspect, but the fact that you like him and I like Samoa and they've finished 1-2 an event is always a promising sign. Then you think about the fact that one of Besseling's better finishes has come at Crown Cercier as well. He's played well in the past. He's played well in Kenya, as we keep mentioning. So to me, for Besseling, I don't know if being a top 10 driver on the DP World Tour means he's really good or the DP World Tour is really bad. But it doesn't matter, right? Like it's in the context of what he's playing against. There's probably 5 or 6 players that you really need to worry about this week, and then everybody else is fair game. Like, you got Fleetwood, Dietrich, Smith, Fox, McIntyre, Mimuli, and Herbert, maybe. Rasmus Højgaard, I guess, are like real standouts. Like you can really see them winning when they get in the hunt. They drive the ball really, really well, etc. But then you've got a lot of kind of like uncertainties at the top. You've got a lot of middle players that like I thought I'd like Callum Shinkwin, but like he's like 40-1, and if you're just looking for skill sets, he's it. But then so is Besseling, so is Samoa at times, so is Becker, so is Paul Waring was good off the tee. It's interesting. I don't know quite. It's a really hard week to handicap, I think, and it's one of those ones where you probably don't need to give too much of a chance to the bottom of the board, which is why we've only got one selection each down there. But I could definitely see the kind of 40-60-1 range hitting, because you've just got, these guys at the top don't win every week. It just doesn't happen. I know it's happened a bit more recently, which is why I've kind of protected myself with Dietrich. But like is Tommy Fleetwood playing like a 10-1 golfer? No, he's not. I know he's improved a little bit recently, but I think there's opportunities to take chances. I mean, Brandon Grace a couple of years ago would have been a great bet, but I don't know if anything's come out since he collapsed on the floor in Live.
I think he might have played. He played Miami afterwards.
Right.
But yeah, he had to withdraw in Jeddah because of the sickness, and he was not good in Miami. He was terrible in Miami.
Yeah. So
from what the numbers show.
Yeah. So to me, I would be a bit. I mean, he wasn't playing that well before then either. So like, I really like Brandon Grace. He's was one of my favorite golfers. So, I do really enjoy his game, but like, I just don't think there's an awful it's a long way around to say, like, I don't think there's a lot to worry about here. I think people that suit the skill set, you've got 4 rounds, there's no cut. So go out there and shoot a low final round and get yourself inside the top 5 or 6 and pay out in each way.
Yeah, it's the risk you run in a no-cut, stronger field, but also this isn't that same strength where you don't have the downside of missing. Heck, you could put together 63, 64 on the weekend, right? Like, I mean, this course is more difficult. Maybe that's a stretch there, but I think it gives more, I guess, opportunity for these guys down the board. They're not fighting against 60 other guys that might be priced right next to them, right?
This field isn't what it normally is. Like, it's
correct.
As you just alluded to there, like, Tommy Fleetwood isn't what Tommy Fleetwood was in 2019. Lee Westwood is a 3-time winner at this golf course, won in 2018. Brandon Grace was a great player in 2017. Noren, Leishman, Willett, Bjorn, Keimer, Stenson, Furyk, Goose, and Garcia. Like, these were people at the Pomp were winning this, and they were beating, alternatives.
The best.
Yeah, like it. Mm-hmm. And we were going to see that. I think we were going to see a couple more players. We're definitely going to see Zalatoris. He was committed to it and to his injury. So, like, we could have got that kind of week. And circling back to your very first point, it'd be nice if some of those guys showed up from next week. But there's just no incentive to, what's the incentive for them to travel to South Africa and then go to, Dubai?
Correct.
It's just not there, right? So it's tough. But I think we've identified some good golfers. I think between us, like, I think we've gone with a skill set again. Like, we've gone with good drivers, and or if they're not a good driver, they make it up in a different way. But like, we generally targeted good drivers of the golf ball. So I think we're on the right lines, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yep, I'm excited for the week, and like I said, you jump right in to the championship next week, and then there's 4 events in a 2-week span over Thanksgiving here in the States, and then the first week of December. So we're staying busy, Tom. Like to make sure we give a shout out before we review our cards to all of those that listen on audio platforms. You can find us at Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets. The Mix, Mayo Media Network on YouTube goes a long way. Rate, review, subscribe. If you comment for us, we're going back in those comments. We got feedback last week on some things we want to improve. Hopefully, that was kind of an adjustment we tried to make actively this week. So we appreciate you guys listening. And definitely want that feedback and want us to implement things that you want to see or other opportunities, please feel free. We're available on Twitter too. You can find me at Skyhook DFS. You can find Tom at Tom Jacobs 93. We're here. We're continuing to support our beloved tour as we close out the season.
And it is getting harder. I've got to be honest. Like when you think you've got a break in November and December, and then you realise that they've shoehorned 5 events before Christmas. But no, to circle back to the point you made, firstly, I thought for the first time in like 87 million episodes that you were going to miss the shout out to the audio platform, and I was going to tee you up with a really good thing of where can they find us for the next couple of weeks. But you nailed that. But to the point of the YouTube comments, like, I'm really glad that people make those comments, and you went back on the comment. We kind of raised it in the group chat that, like, it's really important to us. Like, to me and you, like, we'll be chatting away and don't, because we know what we're talking about, it's not as easy sometimes for people to follow along. So really appreciate the comments there. Hopefully people realize that we're taking them on board so that people then do mention other things, because that's the only way you can improve a show, right? Like, whether it's audio, video, whatever, is people listening in. So if people are making those comments, they've listened in intently, which is what I really like. So really, really pleased with the support we've got this season.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Tom, let's lead into your card here for us.
Yeah, so Thomas Dietrich for me. I don't know exactly the price. Let me just look on the Odds Checker US website here. Thomas Dietrich is 14-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook. And then I've gone in with Gavin Green, who you said has been boosted to 55, which is a nice bonus there. Oliver Becker, you can get a 55-1. I think it's the Caesars Sportsbook there, but DraftKings Sportsbook is 50-1 as well. And then we have got Calais Samoya, who, so there is a decent difference in price range. So he's 200 to 1 in England and 130 to 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So there is a big difference, but I think 130 to 1 in this kind of field is good value still.
Absolutely. For me, I'm leading off Lucas Herbert, 25 to 1, Antoine Rosner, 31 to 1. Then I'm going down to Yannick Paul, 45 to 1. The Guido Migliozzi, he's available at 70 to 1. And then Will Besseling is 125 to 1. So let's have a week, Tom. Let's go. Let's close the season strong. And simultaneously, final stage of Q School tees off on Friday. I believe it's a 6-round Q School. Some big names got through second stage, so excited for that. The Challenge Tour just wrapped up last week. Saw some big time performances there. So excited. Again, immediately we jump almost, they used to give a week off on the PGA Tour in between this. They just jump right after, and we've seen a lot of opportunity for these guys early on, winning, coming out of Q School, coming off the Challenge Tour. Huge opportunity for prices. We're going to get our heads into the books, study these up, be ready to go when it comes. But thank you all again for your support and listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.